Hi, I'm Bozo and I'm a Kiri main. Let's talk about how to play Kiri with other supports in ranked. Part 1. Kiri Ana. This is a greedy comp and is more and more punishable the higher in elo you play, or the more coordinated your enemies are, which is why it's seen mostly in ranked and not often in pro play. Positionally, they have some anti-synergy. Kiri likes to use her mobility to take angles with DPS or alone, usually splitting from her other support. But Ana plays best with someone tanky stacked on her, like a Brig or a Cass. The pros of Ana and Kiri are, this duo has extremely valuable utility in cooldowns and ultimates, high consistent healing output including burst heals, and decent damage output. This comp also works well with Mauga and Hog mirrors due to anti-nade and cleanse. Ana and Kiri can help each other at range without physically being stacked to some extent. Ana usually provides a safe TP option for Kiri, and Ana sleeper nade can usually buy enough time for Kiri to come help Ana when dealing with one or maybe two flankers, but a well-coordinated dive not so much. That brings us to the cons of Ana and Kiri. Ana's vulnerable to flankers when Kiri's on angles if the Ana's left alone. If your Ana gets dove and you TP to her, you are a sitting duck. There's a reason Brig and Ana is the best comp for Ana. Brig has more HP, armor, a barrier, inspire, and her packs are unmatched for supporting friendly dive targets. Kiri's whole thing is, I'm gonna get out of here and not die. But Brig's whole thing is, I'm gonna stand here and not die, which is much better for an Ana. That is why Kiri and Ana is rarely seen in pro play, the exception being on certain points or certain maps where your backline is hard for enemies to access. Though right now we see a lot of Juno Ana in these scenarios. If you were to try and play Ana and Kiri like Ana Brig where you stack, you lose a lot of offensive pressure when your Kiri gives up angles to stay in her own backline. Your Kiri loses one of her safe TP options. Kiri has no boop to deny dives for Ana, and both heroes have the same weakness into D.Va and Winston of their heals being eaten or blocked. And sometimes, like with double immort comps, both heroes can try to save someone at once, sometimes using Suzu and Nade both at once, or worse, Suzu and Nano. So how do we play Ana and Kiri? Positioning. Between the two, Kiri will almost always be the one with more aggressive positioning. For both offensive purposes, poking on off angles, forcing CDs, supporting off-angling DPS, and defensive purposes, occupying space that enemy DPS would want to use to access your backline. Healing responsibilities. In general, between the two, Ana's usually better suited for healing tank, and Kiri is better suited for healing DPS, but there's still a lot of room for flexibility, and this can depend on your ranked teammates' hero picks. Ults. Both Nano and Kitsune can be used early fight, but between the two, Kitsune generally prefers to open fights, and Nano can be used later in fights or defensively a little more consistently than Kitsune. Of course, as with any support ults, you should generally be alternating between the two ultimates each fight. On average, you'll build Nano a little faster than Kitsune, but when both ultimates are available and you are deciding which to use, think about your comp, enemy ults, and where you're taking the fight. Your comp. Some heroes' ultimates would prefer one or the other. Genji Blade prefers Nano, Hog ult prefers Kitsune, Visor works well with either, and so on. Enemy ults. If the enemy has Orbit or a zoning ult, such as Torb ult, Ball Mine, Venture ult, etc., Kitsune is less likely to get consistent value. Consider using Nano that fight instead if you cannot force these ults first. Where you're taking the fight. Are you taking the fight somewhere where multiple members of your team could use Kitsune? Or is your win condition a hero that generally will split from your team and or break LOS from healers, making Nano a better ult? This also kinda ties back into team composition. How can you help each other? As Ana, you can help your Kiri by telling her when you might need her help, not just when you are getting dove, but beforehand when you see enemies setting up. If your Kiri is on an off angle, try to help keep her up if you can so she can stay longer. However, your priority is still healing your front line, and Kiri will come back when she needs to. If you sup the target and don't have a one-shot teammate, tell your Kiri. If you 3-2-1, Kiri headshot melee and Ana shot melee is usually enough to kill most squishies. As Kiri, you can help your Ana by watching your Ana's back, even when you're not physically on top of her. Let her know if you see a Tracer, Winston, Genji, or you hear a Sombra nearby setting up to dive her, and tell her where or ping them out. When Tracer has pulse, being proactive and alert and helping your Ana can go a long way. But if you aren't paying attention for a few seconds and you have to Suzu your Ana to save her, Tracer will pulse her. If you are both one-tricks or either of you really cannot swap for whatever reason, sometimes it is just the play to sell your Ana and hope that she gets a really impactful nade before she dies. If they're running a coordinated dive and you TP to her, Suzu her, and you both still die from high burst damage or D.Va Winston keeping you from healing each other, then your team has zero supports. But if you stayed in your safe position and it's not worth the resources to try and save her, you live and your team still has one support. However, if she is also getting help from one of your DPS, it can be worth it to invest resources to shutting down the dive or trading out. Ask your DPS for help, and ideally have one stack on your Ana to deny dives. If you are regularly the only person peeling for her and you aren't getting any help from your DPS, consider swapping. For coordinated dives that are really hard for your backline to survive, you could go Brig for her, or she could go Lucio so she's not a liability. The TLDR of this comp is, you are limit testing enemy dives. If you can get away with leaving Ana alone and you have more people on the front line, great. If you need a DPS stacked on her in order for her to live, then that's an adaptation you'll have to ask your DPS to help with. If she cannot survive on Ana without a Brig, then it might just be time to swap. What other rank support comps with Kiri are you guys curious about? Let me know. And as always, love you Kiri mains.